All right, this is such a stupid start. Anyway. I don't want no scrub. A scrub is a launch that don't get far off the ground.
That's right. In the light of all the scrubs we've had recently, we thought we'd take a look at what they are and highlight some of the craziest ones.
Yes, please do keep the comments, memes, and messages coming in on social media. In case you didn't know, we're at Space and Things 1 on Twitter and at Space and Things Podcast on Facebook and Instagram.
But for the moment, no matter what you're doing, we hope you enjoy episode 6 of the Space and Things Podcast.
Beautiful.
You're listening to the Space and Things Podcast with Emily Carney and Dave Giles.
Hello, I'm Dave Giles.
And I'm Emily Carney, and welcome to episode 6 of our podcast.
It's great to have you back, Emily. I know it's been a tough couple of weeks, but how are you doing?
I'm personally doing fine.
Good.
It's been a nuts couple weeks. As anyone who's listened to last week's podcast knew, we suffered a pretty big loss in the space community. Al Hallenquist passed away, unfortunately, I think a week ago. So it's been kind of tough. So I just wanted to extend my, both of us want to extend our deepest condolences and thoughts to his friends and family at this hard time. Other than that, I'm hanging in there. It's been kind of a nutty few weeks. I don't know how many of y'all are following the news out there. Things are pretty crazy right now, but we always have space flight. So yeah, I'm not going to get into all that because I don't want to get, political. But yeah, things are pretty nuts right now in the United States. So as we said earlier this week in our text, at least the memes are good. At least the memes are good. The memes coming out of this whole year have been golden. That's the only thing. They've been fantastic. I'm like, this is keeping me positive because I'm like, the meme makers are just really doing overtime, and they're supporting us fantastically. So many thanks to all the meme makers out there.
Meme makers, yeah.
And some of you out there have sent us memes as well related to this podcast. We really appreciate it. We think it's pretty funny.
Yeah, absolutely love it. And actually, before we get started, I did want to say that I promise everyone the show will start soon. But before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to Todd Oliver, who has been one of these people delivering a weekly meme, which have really made us laugh. He's really been on fire, and he's also been incredibly generous to the show this week. So thanks a lot, Todd. We really appreciate that.
Yes, Todd. Thank you so much from both of us. You've been really awesome. So thanks for everything.
Yeah.
While everything else is kind of a dumpster fire right now, at least there's a lot to talk about in spaceflight this week.
There really is. Annoyingly, I've been a bit distracted. I've tried to keep up, but I have been a bit distracted because I've been at a virtual whiskey show all week. So,
wow.
Yeah, my other podcast is a whiskey podcast with a musician friend, and we decided we need to learn more about whiskey, and it's been wonderful, but it requires a lot of drinking and a lot of from very early on in the day. So trying to keep on top of everything has been a bit crazy. We've still got 3 days left as well, which is
wow,
wonderful. It's wonderful.
That sounds like fun. I can dig that. I like whiskey, so hey, I'm not. It's all good.
It's basically like what we talked about with Space Fest. You know how Space Fest went online? Kind of did some activities online.
Yeah.
This is normally one of those big trade shows that exists in one of the big exhibition centers, and they've just done it online, and they've got all these virtual stores and virtual tastings and quizzes and all kinds of stuff. I did win a t-shirt, so it's not so bad.
That's cool.
Anyway,
right.
Let's get started.
We have no intention of competing with the professionals, believe me.
Okay, I also have something before we get started with the main program.
Oh, excellent.
October 4th was Sputnik Day, and to celebrate, the Kansas Cosmosphere had a telethon to raise funds for the museum, and they've also got a very special auction over the next few weeks.
Yes, actually, I was supposed to mention this last week, and I forgot. So I'm glad you brought that up. It's called Onward and Upward, I think. They've got this whole thing going on, and the Cosmosphere is amazing. It's absolutely... Have you ever been?
I'm really embarrassed to say this. I have not been yet. Once all this craziness hopefully dies down within, God, I'm hoping the next year. It's one of the first places I plan to head out to, hopefully. So yeah,
it is amazing. If the thing is, it's in the middle of nowhere. It generally is in the middle of nowhere. You couldn't get more middle of nowhere. It's one of those crazy things that they've got this amazing museum in this tiny town in the middle of America that has the Apollo 13 command module. It has Gemini 10, and now it's also got Liberty Bell as well. And it's a wonderful facility. They've got so much. It's really well laid out. They've got so many great artifacts. You need probably 2 full days there really to get it. It's absolutely wonderful, and the people that run it are really nice as well. They are. They were great to me when I was there last July because they had Liberty Bell in their restoration room at Spaceworks, but it wasn't on display. And I sent them a message telling them that I was only in America for this one time, and could I get over and have a look? And they let me get in on my own into Spaceworks to see it. It was amazing for me to get up close to it.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
I got a soft spot for that place, so I will put links to the auction and their onward and upward telephone for those who are interested in checking that out.
Roger, this is Liberty Bell 7. The clock is operating. Loud and clear, Jose. Don't cry too much. Okie doke.
In episode 4, I said that we had a busy weekend of launches coming up. Then in episode 5, they still hadn't happened. And
nope.
I hope that it meant that we had all the launches this weekend just gone. But then scrub after scrub after scrub, whether it was United Launch Alliance, SpaceX, or Northrop Grumman, they all seemed to fail to get their rockets off the ground or off the pad. We had weather and we had technical problems, but eventually Northrop Grumman did break the curse, the Floridian curse that seemed to be there. And their Antares, I never know if I pronounce that right, their Antares rocket took some supplies up to the ISS, the International Space Station. And this morning, we're recording Tuesday, so Tuesday morning, we had a really beautiful morning launch of the Falcon 9 from SpaceX, doing some more Starlink satellites. So maybe we'll see some more soon. The Delta IV Heavy scrub was quite dramatic, same as before. Got to 3 seconds, engines lit, and then just stopped. So it has all been a bit crazy.
Yeah, the Antares rocket by Northrop Grumman, NGIS, I believe launched from Wallops Island in Virginia. So that's a little ways out. Yeah, it's a little ways out from here. NGIS, all that stuff is out there. It's all around that general area. So
it's further up the really coast.
Cool. Yeah, it's further up the coast. It's in Virginia, which is probably 10 to 12 hours away from me.
Okay.
If I was driving. Yeah, the Delta IV Heavy launch, I'm convinced now that I'm cursing launches by going out in my neighborhood to the end of my driveway and trying to watch them, because I swear to you, like the first Delta, or not, I don't think it was the first scrub even. There was one night where it's like, man, it's really going to go tonight. I think this was over a month ago. I go out there and it, lights up and I'm like, yeah, and then nothing. And I'm like, and there's like, I just hear crickets, like in the, like in the background, like nothing. So I'm like, okay, that was weird. I guess we're not going to space tonight. And yeah, I want to say last one was pretty much the same thing. It was almost midnight. I think it was almost midnight. I'm going outside. I'm all pumped up. I'm in my pajamas. People are looking at me like, what the heck is this woman doing in her PJs outside? I'm getting bit up by mosquitoes and stuff. And I go out there. I'm like, yeah. And I'm on my phone, like watching the video and stuff. And then it's the same again. So yeah, it's just, I'm now convinced that the minute I decide I'm not going to go out and watch it, it's going to go up. It's going to go off. Same thing with Starlink this morning. I was not watching that one, and it went. It went. Yeah, because I went outside. I think I don't know if it was the Starlink one or another launch, because there've been quite a few.
Yeah, they had two. They attempted 2 different SpaceX Falcon 9s over the weekend.
Yeah, so. I think it was the GPS one.
Yeah. All
I know is I went out to look for that one. And that one scrubbed too, because I went outside. Same drill. I had like some lemonade, and I was like, man, it's going to be awesome. I'm going to see this launch. Nothing. Yeah, got to 5, 4, 3.
But that got
abort.
to 2,
I'm
didn't
like,
it?
you
Yeah.
gotta be messing me.
Yeah,
No.
that got down to 2 seconds as well. I mean, the engine didn't come on, but still, it was a very last minute scrub or delay.
Yeah, it was down to the wire. So I was just like, whatever. So I'm convinced that it's me doing it now, and I'm just not going to watch any more launches anymore. So I'm just going to stay inside.
They've all been for different reasons as well. Like this time of year, you could say, if it was all one weekend, you could think it's all the weather. It hasn't all been the weather. Some of them have had to go, and they've just not got off, but for various technical reasons, safety reasons, whatever it may be, they've not gone. And it is right that they don't go if there's reasons
Absolutely.
not to. We've all seen the montages of the rockets blowing up in the 50s, which, as fun as they are to look at now, isn't where we want to be.
No, that's a lot of money, and it's a lot of heartache. Yeah, like I know a few people who work at contractors, and when stuff like that does happen, it represents, that it's like, wow, I worked on this project for years, and it just went up in about a matter of milliseconds, and it's like they're just sitting there. Like, it really reminds you, all payloads, it sounds so horrible, but it's really true. All payloads are really at the mercy of their launch vehicle.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you could have the most beautifully built spacecraft in the world, but if the launch vehicle isn't working right, it's not going to happen. And I've seen that happen a lot in Florida, unfortunately.
Yeah. Whenever these things happen, you always see the conversation online of why do they use Florida or the East Coast? Surely, if we just put it in California, it would all be so much easier. They've got weather all the time, and although they do have the weather, and Vandenberg was going to be an alternative shuttle launch pad, wasn't
Correct.
it? So
yeah, Slick 6, SLC 6,
but. Back in the 50s when they were deciding like this, I suppose the East Coast and go in that direction was the optimum thing because it's a shorter distance and close to the equator, and there's probably some maths there that I don't understand. But
I can give kind of the simple. I'll give the simple version.
Please do.
The reason why Florida is used as a launch site, or one of probably the primary launch site in the world, and Vandenberg is used now for a lot of I would say polar launches. Wallops Island in the United States is used as well. The thing with Florida, the reason why it's such a good launch site is back when they first started launching in the 50s, it's kind of a joke in Florida, like, you don't like the weather, wait 3 minutes or something like that. Wait a few minutes because, 1 minute it's like pouring rain and the next minute it's fairly sunny. And that's pretty true. But most, except for the summer and obviously we do get hurricanes. I'm not going to try to minimize that, but we do get, some severe weather in the summertime. But generally, like in the winter or our winter, it's kind of hard because we don't really have seasons here like other states. We don't have the leaves don't turn here. We don't have that. So, but when the weather is mild, it's really good normally. Yeah. So I think part of the reason was we do have generally not horrible weather. Another reason is because Florida is pretty close to comparatively close to the equator.
Right.
And another reason, like you said, and you said this pretty well, was it kind of gets that natural boost from traveling eastward.
Yeah.
There are a few launch sites in the world, not necessarily United States launch sites, but like French Guiana is another one that's near the equator.
Yeah.
So because you kind of have a natural advantage to getting into space from there. So, So that's why Florida is a pretty decent launch site and why it's been used since, forever, the 50s.
I'm guessing it's to do with the rate of the spinning of the Earth at the equator or something like that. It's probably something to do with that being faster or something.
I think it has something to do with, it kind of just gives us a natural boost. I think it does have to do with the, I want to say west-east kind of movement of the Earth.
Yep.
So, and if I got that wrong, somebody yell at me. I don't mind.
Exactly.
Yeah, somebody step in and help because, I could have gotten it all messed up, but I think that's the reason why they use basically Florida. And like I said, there are other launch sites as well that are used, but they might not have the same advantage as we do.
Yeah. So it's been Scrubtown indeed, and hopefully that is now. Well, there'll always be scrubs. As I said last week, they've put the date for the next crewed flight on October the 31st, but I would bet good money that will get scrubbed as well. I think
I'm not going to go see it.
Well, yeah,
I'm just going to stay.
Exactly. I mean, Bob and Doug got scrubbed. These things happen, and we'll talk about some more of that.
We'll talk about more of them. Yeah.
SpaceX Dragon, we're go for launch. Let's light this candle.
So, with all of these scrubs, we thought we'd look back at some historic scrubs and launch aborts.
I don't know where to begin. There's been
some fun ones.
As we just said, the most recent crewed launch with Bob and Doug on the Falcon 9 was scrubbed by a week. It's fairly common, and the shuttle used to get scrubbed all the time. I believe the record was tied between STS-61C and STS-73, which were both scrubbed 6 times before they were finally launched on their 7th attempt. And there can be numerous factors in this, but I think my favorite ever, let's not just put scrubs into this. Let's also talk about aborts, as you said. Yeah. For me, that Gemini 6 one was the first time that really happened, where the engine lit. It gets to 0, engine lights, smoke's coming out the bottom. You see the flame, and then it just cuts. And you've got Wally Shearer and Tom Stafford sitting at the top. Inside this fueled rocket, and this is the first time that's happened, and Wally's got his hand on the abort handle, and if he had felt it move, he was supposed to turn that handle and essentially eject the two of them off, but he didn't do it. He claims he didn't feel any movement, and Tom Stafford backs him up on that, but they knew that if they had done that, they wouldn't have flown for ages, and they were trying to do this rendezvous with Gemini 7, which was already up, because their previous launch, which was supposed to go to an Agena, got scrubbed because the Agena failed. So, which was the target, Agena being this target vehicle that they were supposed to go up and try and rendezvous with. It was going to be the first ever rendezvous. So this was a big deal. And Wally just held his nerve and just went, I didn't feel anything. Let's sit on top of this rocket that's full of fuel that's just been lit, and we've never seen this happen before. Okay, we're good. We can leave now. And it's just crazy when you see the footage and when you hear them both talk about it. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that. If anybody has a chance to go to the American Space Museum in Titusville,
love that place.
They actually have the EKGs of Shara and Stafford during that launch abort,
so you can see their heart rates.
Yeah, they have it has the readout basically. Back then, obviously, they didn't have the kind of digital. They didn't have iPhones, obviously, but they had the kind of like the paper printout basically of what it looked like. And you can tell. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how to read these things, but you could tell who the commander was during that time, because you could tell he was like, Oh, I almost said a cuss word. Oh crap! Oh crap! Oh crap! You could tell he was kind of like, what's going on here?
I've got the photo. I just looked through my photos from being there. It's signed by Tom.
Yep.
Yes, you really can. I will post this photo on our Instagram for sure. Yeah, you definitely can see that. That's crazy.
Yeah, you can tell, I wouldn't say he was freaking out, because I doubt he was freaking out, but you could tell he was kind of like, are we supposed to be a little higher at this right now? Aren't we supposed to be off the pad? You can tell there's do I eject or what, Yeah. It's actually a really good idea that they didn't eject, because number one, if either of them had survived, they wouldn't be flying for a while. And I think I want to say I read this somewhere, and like I said, if I'm wrong, somebody please jump out in the internet and correct me. But I want to say there was there was a fairly decent chance that you could get injured or killed from doing that.
Yeah.
So I forgot what the percentage was, but when I read it, I was a little impressed by the number and how high it was. I was like, oh my God, I don't care what was going on, I'd just stay in there. Because either way, it's it's going to be a sporty ride. Either way, it's not going to be fun.
It's certainly, I'd like to know the stats on and I think I've read them before as well, but what if they had ejected, I think there was a good chance they wouldn't have survived, especially not from a stats that low down to the ground.
Oh,
maybe
God.
if they'd been up a little bit and actually gone a few hundred meters, and then they injected, they may have had stood a better chance. But it's crazy. And when you watch the footage, I will put a link to the video of this launch, and you just see it. It really does come on and then shuts down. And that must, you can't imagine what that was like sitting in there. You cannot imagine.
I probably would have cussed a lot because I would have been like, you got to be kidding me. Like, that's how I hate to say this. I love United Launch Alliance, and I understand any abort situation. I totally understand, but I'll admit the second one where it lit up, I got my hopes up for that one. I was like, yeah, woo! And then it was like, again, and I just was like, mother, boop, 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 and I just walked away, and stuff. But it was like, yeah, there's kind of like that excitement, and then it's like nothing. So yeah.
Of course, there have been 3 Russian aborts which have happened while they're quite far off the ground. One only happened quite recently as well. One was only a couple of years back. The Soyuz MS-10. There was 2 guys in that, and I can't remember their names from the top of my head. But yeah, they got quite high up, and they had to abort. They reached space, but obviously hadn't reached orbit. So they had to come straight back down again, and a serious amount of G's pulling on their bodies, coming back in, and ended up a little bit further down. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard the audio from Gus Grissom's Liberty Bell flight, so the suborbital flight.
Yes,
and obviously in abort is a similar kind of arc where you go up and you're coming down quite steeply,
ballistic.
A lot steeper than you would do if you're coming in from orbit. And the audio of Gus as he's coming back down, the strain in his voice with the G's, it's like, wow. And then all of a sudden he switches because it's all back to normal again. But that's really something. So these guys, they got a lot hot, they're going a lot faster with a lot more powerful rockets than the Redstone. So they really came down with a whole load of G's. I think one of the Russian aborts, they're saying that there was close to like 17 G's or something like that, which I didn't think was survivable, but these guys did. Actually,
I'm not trying to correct you, but the April 5th Anomaly.
Here we go.
The April Anomaly in 1975. There's a few notable things about this one, and I'm getting this information. I want to give a shout out to the gentleman from where I'm getting this from. There's a space historian named Andrew LePage who wrote an article, and we'll put it on our show notes. And it's called A Brief History of Launch Aborts. It was written in 2014, so the Soyuz MS-10 abort is not in this one, but still it's an excellent article. If you're interested in this crazy topic, I would read it. But the April 5th Anomaly was on April 5th, 1975, and it was supposed to be what was going to be Soyuz 18, and the crew consisted of 2 cosmonauts. It was Vasily Lazarev and Oleg Makarov. I'm probably not saying his name right.
I'm glad you did that, not me.
They were supposed to spend 60 days on the Salyut 4 space station. But what ended up happening, this is according to Andrew's article, by the way. I did not memorize all this, and he wrote it up way better than I could, so I give him all the credit for this. The article does state that for 120 seconds after the launch, the 4 boosters of the Soyuz rocket were dropped as planned from the Block A core, followed 30 seconds later by the jettisoning of the launch escape system. The launch escape system is basically like a tiny rocket on top of where like the crew capsule would be. And basically what its job is, it's to pull away, in case something bad happens, it's to pull away the crew from the vehicle. So at 288 seconds after launch, the Block A core shut down as planned. And at this point, and this is again according to the article, I didn't memorize all this, the Block 1 upper stage was supposed to separate and ignite, sending the Soyuz into orbit. Unfortunately, this did not happen. According to the article, the engine ignited and, quote, the ascending craft began to roll and pitch heavily.
Oh, could you imagine?
So there was a booster failure alarm. The engine had an emergency shutdown because it deviated off course. Because, they didn't have any launch escape system anymore because the tower came off. So basically what happened was the spacecraft's own propulsion system had to guide it away from the capsule. And by this point, the crew was already technically in space. This part I kind of remember because I want to say I read something else in one of my Soviet space history books about it, because this was kind of a big deal when it happened, and I'll explain why in a minute. So what happened was they came back down kind of on a ballistic trajectory. Okay, the normal G entry would be like 2 to 3 Gs, I think.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask you, how many do you think they pulled on this?
In my head, I remember it being on the high teens or something silly like that. But
21.3.
So I don't understand how they survive that. I don't understand how. I mean, maybe it's the way the Soyuz is designed or something so that it can cushion it or something. But
yeah, according to this article, Lazarev did not fly again because he actually suffered injuries.
Right. Okay.
During this, the other gentleman, I guess, was okay. But as I end this awesome story about the Soviet spaceflight program, this kind of had ramifications because guess what was 2 months later, 3 months later?
The Apollo-Soyuz mission.
Yes!
Yeah.
So that was kind of a concern to the United States at the time that, okay, what happened? They got to get this right,
If I remember rightly, they came down on a hill? They landed on the side of a mountain or something like that, and was like they ended up getting caught in some foliage or something like that, which slowed them down.
Yeah,
and they had to camp overnight or something like that because
you are correct. They had to spend the night after going through all that crap. They're like, they had to go camping afterwards. I'm sorry, I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's like, can you imagine like your luck being that bad? Like not only did you have to survive like
21 and
20, yeah, but now you're camping.
Yeah, in the cold, and it's cold.
Yeah, I have nothing but respect for the early pioneers of the Soviet space program because they'll be out there with guns and wolves and stuff. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's great though because you do see those great images of the early astronauts doing their jungle training and their sea training and desert training, and there's all those great photos of particularly the groups 1 and 2 NASA astronauts. But I haven't seen many of the training stuff that the Russians did. I'm sure that they would have done training for that kind of thing. But it just goes to show they did need to do that training because that was the whole point. You didn't know where they were going to necessarily come down, either because of a failure in the retro firing before they came back to re-entry, or because of some kind of launch abort. So it's easy to look at those photos of those astronauts thinking, what were they doing? Why did astronauts need to train in the jungle? But then these 2 Russian cosmonauts had to do exactly that, pretty much.
Exactly. Yeah, they pretty much had to rough it afterwards. So that's why they do that kind of training. And I believe that nowadays, I don't think, obviously, we've had a return to commercial crew with Crew Dragon and all that. But I believe, I want to say we got one American who's going to fly a Soyuz soon.
Yeah.
But they still have to do that. Americans have to do that training as well with the Russian cosmonauts nowadays, just to be on the safe side. So, although the Russians really do have a pretty good safety record. They really do. They do have a launch escape system. So if something happens, the vehicle can be pulled away from the launch vehicle if something goes bad. So that's really a big deal.
Yeah.
Shuttle did not have that.
Yeah.
So
obviously.
Yeah. So unfortunately. Yeah. So I really got to hand it to them. I'm not making fun of them at all. I think what they've done is pretty cool.
Yeah. So. If the fact that they've had 3 aborts on launch, like mid-launch, and all of the guys have survived, that is incredible. And it's a testament to these systems that get developed, and it's why programs like the Space Launch System have taken so long, because they've been doing all the Orion abort systems and making sure they've got the launch abort systems right and all those kind of things. And these take time; they need to get them right. You can't get these things wrong when there's a crew in there.
Exactly. So you don't want to find out it doesn't work when it doesn't work.
Exactly. So let's take the time. Let's have the scrubs as well. But the shuttle did have loads of. The space shuttle had loads of scrubs.
Oh yeah.
What was the one where it was on fire? Is it Discovery that was on fire?
Yes. STS-41D. this attempt was on June 26, 1984.
Right.
And everything seemed to be going as planned. Basically what happened, and I'll try to give the quick and easy explanation for it. When the vehicle gets to about 6.6 seconds, the mains ignite.
Mm-hmm.
And in a normal launch at T0, the boosters go off.
Yeah.
So this time, the mains ignited, and I believe then they shut down out of nowhere. And because they ignited, it set a fire on the launch pad. And this is actually in the new Challenger documentary. That's out this abort for whoever might be interested in it. But sorry, I just had a fleeting thought. Anybody the people got on the shuttle were, especially in the early shuttle days,
crazy.
They were crazy to me because I'm like, you all are macho as hell to go in that thing.
Yeah.
But basically what happened was it set the area around the engines on fire on the pad. And if you look at, the proximity of the engines to the external tank, which has liquid, hydrogen and oxygen in it, it's not very far away. So there was like some legitimate concern for, a couple seconds that, oh my God, it's going to blow up on the pad. Patrick Mullane's new book, The Father, the Son, and the Holy Shuttle, goes into this because, his dad was in there and he's like, what the heck is going on? So luckily the water deluge system was cut on and the fire was put out. And I think the crew got, if I'm not mistaken, I think the crew got soaked as well, but that's okay. They came out alive and nobody got on fire. So
yeah. They'll be happy being wet.
Yeah, some of the shuttle aborts were on the pad. I did not like those. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. And there were several more after that, I want to say.
Yeah. Did I see somewhere you had Eileen Collins? Is this right on Space Hipsters do a talk? Was it Eileen Collins recently?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
And she talked through the launch that she commanded.
It was not an abort scenario, but basically what happened was they had a multiple failures during the ascent. It was STS-93, and there was a lot going on. I believe there was I'm probably missing all this stuff, but I want to say there were three main things that happened. There was an electrical short, so I think there was an issue with the bus. There was also a hydrogen leak.
Wow.
Yeah, that one sucked. If you go on YouTube and again, we'll put this in the show notes. If you go on YouTube, there's this. If you go type in STS-93, there's this crazy audio put together with kind of the schematic of the different flight controllers during that launch, and I think everybody should watch it. Wow, it's the thing that gets me about that one is she's so calm.
Yeah. Because I remember you posting that at the time, and me watching it, I was like, I can't believe it. And one of the guys on the ground saying that was a bit too close or something like that, and she's just like, "Yep, cool, we're good." Yeah,
she was a total professional. I vaguely remember. I think I saw that launch when it happened in '99, and I was listening to some of the audio, and I'm like, during the launch, and I'm like, that's not normal. That's not a normal audio, And I was like, what the heck is happening, And I was freaked out, and luckily they did make it to orbit. That was scary, and she just was a pro all the way. So that was incredible. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm talking all over you, but this subject's really kind of not fun, I would say, but it's kind of interesting. Especially, I hate to say it, I love the space shuttle, and I don't want to demonize the space shuttle, but unfortunately, there really were not many viable abort options. With the space shuttle.
It had to get
just
there.
To be real. Yeah. There was one abort to orbit, and this was in 1985. Let me see. It was STS-51F.
That was Challenger as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. I want to say, I think it was the last launch of Challenger before the accident.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I could be wrong with that, and if I am, again, somebody slap me, but not literally, but just, reach out and say, hey, Emily, you screwed up, but you got your history wrong. But I'm trying to remember this from memory. I think they had some sensors issues with the main engines, and after booster SEP, one of the engines went out.
Right.
Which is really bad because, the space shuttle was not like the Saturn V. It didn't have centerline thrust.
Yeah.
Like with the Saturn, you could lose an engine and you'd be fine. Yeah. Because Apollo 13 lost an engine and they were good to go. Didn't really have any problems, but shuttle not so much. So they lost an engine, and for a while, I think Story Musgrave, he was one of the mission specialists, was like, okay, we're going to Spain, you know? Like he pulls out the book, you know, the contingency book, like, okay, we're going to go to Spain. Yeah, you know, and they ended up being able to abort to orbit. And there's actually another neat video on YouTube, STS-51F abort. Launch, abort, and landing, I think is what it's called. And that's also an interesting listen, because there's a few moments where you're white knuckling it, because you're like, okay, if they had lost a second engine, which they were about to, seriously, I'm not joking, they were about to lose a second one, they wouldn't have made it.
Wow.
I listened to that. I was doing research for something I was writing about the shuttle years ago, and I knew about it, but I finally listened to the audio, you know, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, you just have a lot of respect for everybody who worked on that program. So yeah, but that was the only, thank God, that was the only in-flight abort, as far as I'm aware, in the program.
Yeah, but they still managed to complete their mission amazingly as well.
Yes.
That's pretty crazy. And we've done all of that without even mentioning a lightning strike on Apollo 12. So
yes!
Well done. Well done. So yeah, we will post links. We'll post all the links. But for now, that was a little bit of a launch scrubs and aborts for you there.
Okay, G's are starting to build. Roger, being loud and clear. Roger. G's are building. We're up to 6. There's 9. There's about 10. Roger, still sound good.
This week, Friday, well, that's tomorrow, isn't it? The Right Stuff, the new TV show, is coming on Disney. Is it Disney Plus? Is
Disney
that what they call
Plus.
it?
Yep.
I'm nervous about this.
Me too. I'm reserving my opinion for when I actually watch it, but I'm hoping they get it somewhat accurate. We'll see. I'm scared.
So for those who don't know, The Right Stuff was a movie. It was originally a book by Tom Wolfe, and it got turned into a movie in the 80s. And it's a good movie. If you like space movies, it's a good movie. But there are some inaccuracies which those of us who like certain astronauts aren't best pleased with. But we can still watch it with a pinch of salt. But it's a shame that some of the stories got twisted, and they're turning it into I think a 9-episode or something like a 10-episode maybe.
Something like that.
TV show. So we obviously have modern production standards, and it's Disney's, but we'll see what happens, and hopefully it will be good.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Exactly. I'm sort of nervous just because I'm just nervous in general. There's some people who I felt got a bad deal in the film and in the book.
Okay. I've not read the book.
So the book is, I like Tom Wolfe. He's a good writer. I don't want to talk bad about him. I think he's a real wonderful wordsmith, but there are some, I'll be real, there's some inaccuracies in the book, and some of them are in the film. So we'll see how the miniseries goes. Yeah,
this is about the Mercury 7. This is about the Mercury 7 astronauts, those first American astronauts. And for me as well, Gus is my favorite. He's always been my favorite.
Yes!
So
I love him. He was one of my favorite guys. I love the fact that for some reason I love the fact that he and John Young flew the first Gemini mission together. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, me too. They
seem like the coolest crew. I mean, just like not fazed by anything, you know?
Yeah. For me, those guys have a special place they do have a special place in the history and all that kind of stuff. So you don't like seeing them misrepresented at all. And I think that's part of it. You know, there's enough around them, positive and negative, that you don't really have to make much up. You shouldn't have to. You know, they're not perfect people by any stretch, but it's an interesting enough story without having to go mad, dramatic stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up, and maybe we'll review it as we both watch it.
Yes, absolutely. I'll probably catch it.
You ever been to Disneyland? Affirmative.
Oh, we've definitely an e-ticket.
Roger that, Sally.
So that's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to find out more about any of the things we've talked about, as we've said numerous times, I will have put links in the description of this podcast, which should come up. If you're on Spotify, they don't always come up as clickable, but if you're other places, they do. And I'm sure we'll post the videos on our Facebook and Twitter as well.
All right. Also, we'd like to thank you all for the wonderful comments and reviews. Please keep them coming in. We'd like to give a shout out to Tara Louise, Nasco Thornet, I think I said that right, Really Old Girl, Slow Gin Rules, and my favorite iTunes username, Roger Twank, for your reviews on Apple Podcasts. And we also hope you've enjoyed this week's show.
That's amazing. Roger Twank. Love that. And thanks again to our Patreons who continue to support the show monthly. You can join in over on patreon.com/space and things. Or if you'd like to buy a t-shirt or make a one-off donation, and just head over to our website, spaceandthingspodcast.com.
Yes. And thank you for your generosity. And hopefully we'll see you next week.
And remember, in space, no one can hear you stream.
Space and Things has been brought to you by And Things Productions.